Juneau is still recovering from weeks of heavy snow and then heavy rainfall over the weekend. Take a look at that video now. The risk of avalanches has dropped slightly for some areas, but does remain high in some parts of the capital.
We've followed every first alert leading up to all these weather developments over the past few days.
And tonight we're going to start with Joe Allgood with updates on safety in Juneau regarding that avalanche danger.
Yeah, part of the evacuation advisory in Juneau has been lifted, but the city and the borough says that avalanche hazard remains elevated across all areas. The city lifted the advisory for all known slide paths except for the Bear End slide path. The CBJ's avalanche advisor says there were several avalanches in multiple places around Juneau the past few days, including on Thane Road. Now DOT says Thane Road is clear and open, and Juneau is looking a lot better than last week.
We really are moving down our inventory, so making sure that everything is sanded, all the drains are thawed so that any kind of water can drain away from the roads. Because what we don't want is that water to refreeze and make it really slippery.
The American Red Cross of Alaska said its shelter at Centennial Hall is still open today, at least until more is known about the next storm coming in. Officials also said new evacuation advisories could be possible. Joe Allgood, Alaska's news source.
Recent winter storms have led to the Chugach National Forest Avalanche Center announcing an avalanche warning for South Central over this weekend.
A forecaster for the center says several avalanches have already taken place or occurred in Turnagain Pass. No burials or serious injuries have been reported. Experts urge that you always be aware of your surroundings and be on the lookout for what is called remote triggers.
You might be traveling on a pretty low angle in safe terrain, but because the snowpack setup is weak, you could collapse a layer of snow and that could travel through the snowpack and have an avalanche release up above you that would then come down and impact where you're standing.
Wherever you're at, the Department of Transportation reminds you to stay vigilant. You should try to travel with a partner, have equipment like a shovel handy just in case. And if you're traveling, you're also urged not to drive through avalanche debris if you encounter it. And as we deal with all these current hazards, we've got more changes on the way this week.
Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry joining us now with the forecast, Melissa.
Yeah, John and Augusta, it's just been one storm after another for Southeast. Again, that sharp transition from that extreme snow to now heavy rain and high winds are soon to come starting tomorrow. So again, that is keeping that avalanche risk high as that additional rain and wind moves in against that barren slide path and subdivision that is still evacuated. But really important that you stay out of all avalanche zones. Again, these changes, they can happen really quickly. So most importantly, again, still stay alert because these conditions are still pretty rough. This is a live look at Egan Drive there in downtown Juneau. You can still see standing water on the main roads with a lot of snow to the side. Temperatures are pushing well above freezing, and they're going to stay that way for the next week. So all of this snow is likely going to eventually melt, adding more water again to those roadways. And what a contrast from Ketchikan at 46 degrees to Fairbanks at 37 below at this hour. Anchorage and Palmer right in between and sitting in those lower single digits. We do still have multiple weather alerts in effect from the high wind and flood concerns in Southeast to the extreme cold in Southwest into the interior. And we do have more snow on the way for South Central. So again, Southeast is still where we're seeing the most extreme and potentially life-threatening weather. But I do want to highlight all of those conditions across the state as Anchorage will see chances for light snow moving in tomorrow morning up to 12 degrees. Fairbanks only reaching a high of 25 below tomorrow. Juneau, that heavy rain with temperatures in the mid-40s, and Bethel also seeing air temperatures about 23 below. But when we factor in the wind chill, we're talking 50 to 60 below zero for the Kuskokwim Delta, spreading further south into Bristol Bay. So quite dangerous there as well. I'll have a closer look at that full statewide extended forecast here in a few minutes.
All right, much to come, Melissa. Thanks so much for covering all those changes. Lots going on. Now in Anchorage, we did see a total of 28 homicides last year. Many of those cases are still unsolved.
Georgina Fernandez breaks those numbers down, also discusses some of the trends surrounding those numbers.
Take a look at this graph. It breaks down the trend we've saw with homicide cases in 2025, with the city seeing a spike in October of 6 deaths. Now, according to APD, the homicide rate has been pretty consistent over the last decade, with Anchorage seeing an average of 30 deaths a year. Now, a new trend that the city has been seeing over the last 5 to 6 years has been an increase in domestic violence deaths.
Typically, our numbers weren't as high. We had 8 last year that were domestic violence related. So that's kind of one trend that we've been seeing over the last several years. Obviously, the domestic violence rates in Alaska, when you look at just assaults in general, have been high for quite some time. But that's kind of the overwhelming trend that we see.
Additionally, of the 28 homicides we saw last year, 16 of them still have no charges filed. That's around 42% of the 2025 cases, with just over half of them taking place in the last half of the year.
In some of these cases, we have a good idea who the suspects are, but we don't have all the forensic evidence in. We don't have, everything from the lab. We don't have all the toxicology.
Now, for some comparison, in 2024, charges have yet to be filed in 13 of the department's homicide cases, and we are still waiting to hear back from the Anchorage Fire Department about the status of cases from 2015 to 2023. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
Well, Republican Senator Dan Sullivan now has a Democratic challenger after former Congresswoman Mary Peltola issued a big announcement this morning.
This comes after months of speculation. Peltola now says she plans to give Sullivan a run for the seat. We've got our political reporter Will Courtney here now. Will, how does this race play out for both sides of the aisle?
Yeah, John, Augusta, Democrats have been waiting for a competitive challenger to take on Senator Dan Sullivan. The message coming from many on the left today is pretty clear. Peltola is just who they've been waiting for. In a statement I received from Peltola's campaign, she says she's running because D.C. is broken and the future depends on fixing the system. In a campaign video, she said she wants to tackle affordability, like lowering energy and grocery costs. But that said, Peltola has a big fight ahead of her. Sullivan has been in office for 12 years. He's been endorsed by the president, and he says his record is what's going to get him reelected. Peltola, on the other hand, lost her seat after one term. Many Republicans call her record for Alaska lackluster. Now, I got the chance to speak with Senator Sullivan about this race just weeks ago. That was before Peltola announced she was going to run. That conversation is where he first stressed just how important his record was going to be. And what do you see as the key to your campaign win that you're foreseeing? What's going to be the key?
A record of getting important things done for the state. And that's not Republican or Democrat. Most things I'm talking about are for the whole state. But it'll be a big contrast.
We are seeing a lot more opportunities for these competitive battleground races. And nowhere is more interesting than Alaska, a very unique, very independent state that constantly is sending, mavericks to the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House. And there's no one better representative than Mary Peltola.
Now, on the other side, Senator Lisa Murkowski says she's going to be backing Dan Sullivan to keep his seat. In a statement she sent me today, she's arguing it would be more important for Alaska to hold a Republican majority in the Senate. Now, I go deeper into the state of the race in our latest edition of Alaska's Political Pipeline. That's on our website, mobile app, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All right, Will, thanks so much. Now let's head up to Fairbanks, where this summer, Fairbanks will need to find a new place to celebrate Juneteenth, as Bernice Allridge Park has been named as one of 2 parks that will see renovations. The park has hosted Juneteenth celebrations in Fairbanks for several years, and it's also a staple of older Fairbanks neighborhoods.
But over the summer, improvements will begin as part of the Capital Improvements Program. Renovations will include new playground equipment, bathrooms, improved walkways, and a sledding hill.
I've learned a lot about her compassion for kids, bringing them in, keeping them off the street, getting them out of trouble, making sure they have a place that's safe and enjoyable for families and for kids throughout her life. And that was really the legacy she left for this community. So making sure the park reflects that and is a vision of what the family generations later wants to keep seeing was really important that we were true and faithful to.
Hopkins says the borough is working with the Fairbanks chapter of the NAACP to find a new place to celebrate Juneteenth this summer. The goal is to celebrate the holiday after those renovations are complete in 2027.
Right, so weeks of first alert weather days because of recent extreme weather have left homes damaged. Homeowners are looking for, repairs.
Our investigative team's Johnson Kuhn is watching how to avoid scammers and unqualified contractors. Johnson.
Over the last few weeks in Juneau, heavy snow and wind has left roofs collapsed and boats sunk in the harbor. It's the very kind of disaster that can bring legitimate help, but also bad actors. The Better Business Bureau says home improvement scams are among the top 5 riskiest nationwide. After storms, you'll see everything from practiced con artists to well-meaning but inexperienced crews. The BBB and a local expert I spoke with warned that homeowners can lose thousands to fraudulent contractors if you don't know the warning signs. Quick tips they offer: check the BBB's website and municipal licensing sites, ask for proof of insurance and bonding, request references, and get everything in writing. Also, always take photos before, during, and after work. Beware of door-to-door offers and high-pressure sales or demands to sign immediately. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.